part of this whole process. The lengthy part comes when we start measuring everything, because then we start getting lengths on everything that we've caught. So, stuff that we just catch a few of, we'll measure absolutely everything. But if you get a few baskets of fish that are only this big, I mean, you could be talking about several thousand fish. You're not going to measure every single one, especially when they're the same size. There's just no point. So we'll take a sample of that. So we're actually taking a sample of the sample, which is called a subsample, and then we'll further extrapolate that out. Once that's all done, we're done for that station, and just wait to get to the next one and do it all over again. Sometimes we're catching so much of these nets, especially in the summer, like I was talking about, that we have to dump that net out like 3 or 4 times. We can only dump a little bit at a time, and we can be on the deck for hours because we've just caught so much, but we still have to measure everything. Some of the stuff can be really big too, big enough where we can't lift it off the table. This is a giant stingray, and we actually get quite a few of these, especially in the summer again, down by Delaware Bay.
Oh, wow.
It's called a spiny butterfly ray. These guys get huge like that. But we've caught bigger ones than this. So that stingray is probably a couple 100 pounds, and big enough where a couple of guys can't just lift them up off this table. So we'll hoist them up on the crane on the boat, and attach the crane as a scale. So what we're doing now, we're getting a weight on them. We can also, because it's a stingray, we can tell if it's male or female. And then we get them on the deck, and we can stretch out a tape measure and measure their length. For these guys, we do a wingspan, so we take a wing to wing. So that stingray was probably a couple meters wide. Big fish. Some other stuff we've gotten, we get a lot of sharks. This is a sand tiger shark. These guys are actually pretty dangerous. You can see the teeth on this one. So that was probably a 3 meter long shark. Most of the sharks out there are pretty docile. You don't have to worry about them. But these ones will attack people. That one can eat you if they wanted to. I showed you a picture of that tag earlier. That yellow spaghetti tag in that fish. That was actually a picture of an Atlantic sturgeon, which is an endangered species. And you see the size of that tag. That tag was about a yay long, or 3/4 inches long. To give you an idea how big that fish was, maybe double arms length. And but they get much bigger than that. So we've caught a couple of these things that have just been, again, ridiculously huge and impossible to get off the table with just a couple of people. So we got to hoist them up on this crane. And in this particular catch, we caught 2 of them that size. The other one flopped out onto the table as soon as they emptied the bag. And they didn't know it was in there yet. The deckhand was standing right there.
He's not
when
very
that fish
attractive.
flopped out into the deck and whacked him in the face with his tail, just knocked him out cold. On the deck, and he was unconscious.
Is that the fish?
Yeah.
That was the fish.
That's an Atlantic sturgeon.
That's a fish?
Yes.
I thought it was a shark.
You have a question back there?
Christian.
Yeah.
Do you change places like for fishing every season?
We do actually. Yeah, it's completely random. It's called a random stratified sampling design. And it's called that because each one of these different colored areas, each one of those is called a stratum. So that's a stratum, that's a stratum, that's a stratum, and then it's not on this map, but those stratum are further broken down to individual blocks. So there might be anywhere from 20 to 40 or 50 blocks in some of those bigger stratum. And we'll sample, I think, sample about 3 blocks per stratum for most of them every survey. And whatever block that we choose to sample in that stratum is chosen randomly in the computer program. So we talked a little bit about the tagging of the fish, especially with the sturgeon, because they're an endangered species. We have to do a lot more with them. One of the things we're required to do by law is we have to tag every single sturgeon when we bring in the boat. Luckily, we don't catch that much, so it's not that big of a deal, but it's really good information because of the reasons I was telling you before. Not to mention they're endangered, so it's more important that we keep track of them. Because the more information we get now, later on down the road, hopefully we will have enough information and they'll be recovered enough where we can finally take them off the endangered species list. And, people can start fishing for them again.
Why do you leave?
It's hard to say because that's another species that they mature really late, so they live really long. But it's also a long time before they're able to reproduce. That combined with that they're another fish that goes into the fresh water to reproduce, so that makes everything more complicated. And they used to be regarded highly for their caviar, so they used to be fished for very heavily. So all those factors combined just made them really sensitive to exploitation. And I think I ultimately probably overfishing contributed to them, being on the endangered species list. Yeah.
Say there's an endangered species and you catch it, do you have to let it go, or do you,
Absolutely. Yep.
it's illegal not to?
What's that?
Isn't it illegal not to, if you don't let it go, or?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, if you get caught with an endangered species, I mean, this is a federally endangered species, so it's a felony if you get
Jail
caught with
time.
one. I mean, you can't help it if you caught one. If you were surf fishing off the beach, which is perfectly feasible, that could happen. You don't know it's a sturgeon, until you get it. But if you decide to take that sturgeon home, yeah, you're looking at jail time. So it's pretty major offenses. Same thing with sea turtles. All the sea turtles are protected. Marine mammals, you can't even look at a marine mammal wrong, without it being in some aspect illegal. So, a little more about the tagging, just to catch here. So those spaghetti tags, they have a tendency to come out. Just from fish doing their thing, living their everyday life. Eventually, at one point or another, they're gonna fall out. It's not useful anymore. And that's why when we catch them, we also put these, they're called PIT tags, stand for Passive Integrated Transmitter Tag. It's a fancy name for something really simple. It's so simple, these are the same tags that they call microchips that they put in your cats and dogs if they've gone to the vet or if you pick one up from an animal shelter. And even though a fisherman's not going to know a fish has one of these and if they catch them, these don't come out like those spaghetti tags. So this will be in the fish forever. But someone who's conducting research, or say your cat or dog got lost and picked up by the animal control officers will have these too. And they'll be able to scan your pet, or we'll be able to scan a fish that'll have one of these little microchips in them. And just like yellow tags, it has a individual serial number attached to it. So whoever's responsible for that species, they can be called, given that serial number, and give us the information, and we know where that fish came from. Some of the stuff we do out on the out of my survey is, so for every sample that we take with the net, we also take water quality information. With this device, there's about 100 meters of cable that gets attached to this, and then the other end plugs into this. So we drop this in the bottom of the ocean on this cable, and I'm up on the top of the boat watching the numbers that are coming, and it's all getting recorded in this. And we're getting stuff like temperature and salinity and depth, all kinds of stuff. The most important probably being temperature. So you guys know it was a really cold winter, a really long winter, and even though it's starting to warm up here finally, the bottom temperatures in the ocean are still really cold. They're still only about, when we were out there a few weeks ago, they were about 5 or 6 degrees Celsius, which is about the low 40s Fahrenheit. So not really that far above freezing. That's really cold, especially for this time of year. So we weren't even catching the normal stuff we would usually be catching in April at least. But hopefully as it starts warming up, more fish will start coming in, and we'll be able to get you guys more stuff for your fish tank. Did I miss anything? I know we didn't talk about policy a whole lot. So when we're collecting all this data, all that data gets fed into computer programs that do a lot of statistics on it, a lot of math, and we use that information to predict how many fish that we think are really off the New Jersey coast. But you guys learned a little bit about immigration and emigration, right? So fish are